Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, Magnetic Reversal News, and Shinrin Yoku, bringing you a grand solar minimum update Tuesday, September 6th, 10:30 p.m. Mountain Time, 2022. The models are in, and Europe will be saturated as predicted by multiple tropical storms coming on shore. And just in 7 days, we could see some record flooding in Europe. But the big story, Salt Lake City's heat wave breaks all-time records for September. A September to remember, dating back and breaking records to 1875. Grand solar minimum much? Keep calm. It's boom time. It's true. Who knew? We predicted it 6 years ago. The Weather Service recorded a high of 103 degrees Fahrenheit in Salt Lake City, and that's the hottest September day on record going back to 1874. Earl develops into the second major hurricane of the Atlantic season as well. AccuWeather meteorologists say that Hurricane Earl is likely to become the first major hurricane of 2022 and affect almost no one. But the reason Earl and many other tropical disturbances have blown up, well, is because of the sun, not you. And a man was, in fact, rescued from Earl's fury. Let's watch as a helicopter pulled the injured man off the rocks.
To the survivor with anticipated quick stop recovery. All right, check swimmer. Second swimmer.
10-4, good buddy.
Swimmer's ready. All right, begin the hoist. Roger. Swimmer's going outdoor for load check. Load checking swimmer. And load check complete. Swimmer's going down. Okay. Swimmer is below the aircraft. Swimmer is halfway down. Swimmer's going down. Okay. Swimmer's holding.
Okay, 33-110. 33-110.
Forward, right, 40.
What's your option position, over?
Forward and right, 30.
Well, he looks like that doesn't look
Forward.
good. Let's see what happens. I'm just going to move this up a
And
little
right,
bit.
30. Up, Roger.
Got him.
Roger.
Boom.
50 left.
So, I mean, can you imagine the type of job description for that? That's amazing. And our hearts and prayers go out to the man that was stuck on the rock who has now been saved. Now, we'll watch as the deadly Typhoon Hinamunur wreaks havoc on South Korea.
We're heading to South Korea. Typhoon Hinamunur battering the country with wind and rain. The storm made landfall. Those winds around 90 miles an hour. You can see how strong the winds and those waves were crashing the shore. This is one of the stronger typhoons to strike South Korea. We had at one point winds there with Typhoon Hinamunur upwards of 150 miles per hour. The country's meteorological agency warned that some waves could reach over 27 feet as the storm whipped through the Sea of Japan.
Holy mackerel.
It has been moving through parts of East Asia over the past couple of days. In fact, look at radar showing where in South Korea we had the center of Hinamunur, but it's also those rain bands, one up in Seoul, South Korea. That storm moving on shore, bringing a bit of a storm tide. Unfortunately, some damage too. Even Tokyo getting in on a few showers.
Again, we're seeing all this blow up in the last 5 days due to this solar activity. It doesn't have anything to do with you. You've seen the solar activity uptick. We reported on it in our last update. I'm not going to go back over it. But all these tropical storms, we have four here just that we're looking at here in North America. And then we have that major hurricane hitting South Korea. And we have more uptick coming and more predictions. So potentially bad news is on the horizon, or good news for some, as the empire is crashing all around. Maybe the Earth and the solar system will take it out. Now the Four Corners fire grows to 13,000 acres. Not good news. Boise, Idaho, the Four Corners fire. This is after an evacuation last night that we reported on yesterday. It's burning 6 miles west of Lake Cascade. It's grown to 13,645 acres as of this morning. Fire operations were completed on the eastern flank to protect properties along the West Mountain Road and the town of Weed. And mop-up operations are ongoing. So, good news is that the containment went from 24 to 34% in a day. and the same amount of personnel on the fire. So that's good news, and lots of rain is coming to the system. We'll get to the models in just a moment. As a city with just 20 days of fresh water is left, well, they found a backup source, but they're not out of the woods yet. And that's because, well, the city of Las Vegas, Nevada, has recently been completely decapitated. Just like the mill fire in California. The fire in Las Vegas, Nevada was set by the National Fire Service. So the people that are tasked and paid by your tax dollars in the U.S. government actually lit the largest fire in New Mexico history. The largest wildfire in New Mexico history was lit by the National Wildfire Service. The National Fire Service went out in the woods to do a controlled burn, and it got out of hand. The same thing just happened in California at the mill fire. And after I reported on the mill fire yesterday, there were at least 25 comments I had to remove from people saying directed energy weapons. Now, if you're that inept and that lazy that you can't even look into the story and find out that the fire was started by the fire service doing a controlled burn, and then you write that directed energy weapons are causing all these fires, how stupid do you look? Well, you probably don't even look at the comments, or because you certainly don't look at the facts or the links that I provide below. But if you're one of the people out there that think that the government is using directed energy weapons to light wildfires, and you don't know the facts, that 90% are lit by idiots just like you, and then the other 10%, 9% are lightning strikes, and 1% are other causes, that might be your directed energy weapons. But in these cases of the biggest fires, the fire service lit them. For goodness sakes. Please take your tinfoil hat off if you're incapable of doing actual rigorous research for yourself and for others. You look stupid. And you are stupid. So I apologize for that little sidetrack. But I've been overwhelmed by dumb comments. Now, blistering heat and intensifying fire weather threats in the West. Life-threatening, record-breaking heat persists across much of the West. In fact, it's only record-breaking and life-threatening because the powers that be are shutting off power. They've shut off power to almost 70,000 people today in Southern California, where the heat is the worst. And that should be criminal, in my opinion. But nonetheless, the life-threatening, record-breaking heat will persist across much of the West, as a cold front will temper the heat in the Northwest. But areas ahead of the front will see fire weather threats intensify due to heavy winds, especially for parts of Montana, where extremely critical fire weather threats are expected, as well as high winds. Now, severe storms with damaging winds may develop in Oregon and Montana at the same time, quelching those fires. Now let's move the GFS model through, and you can see that tropical disturbance there, the tropical storm Earl, turning up in the Atlantic, moving through the Bahamas, and heading on to Europe as Hurricane K makes its way up the Baja Peninsula, wreaking havoc on the Four Corners region here, beautifully on Sunday, where we'll get heavy rain in Colorado and in the desert. So if you're thinking of maybe canyoneering in Utah, maybe postpone that plan because you may be washed away. Hey. Now, the GFS is showing total accumulated precipitation in the U.S. to be non-catastrophic for most regions. Florida is going to be the big winner, chicken dinner, with over 4 inches of rain for the entire state. 2 to 4 inches of rain for the entire state of Florida through mid-September. A September to remember. But Europe is not out of the woods. Take a look at this progression of 1, 2, 3 tropical storms making landfall on Europe. So the biggest hit's going to be the Alps, where they're looking at upwards of 3 feet of rain through September 15th. Yes, that's 9 days away. So in 9 days, you're going to get 3 feet in the Alps. You're going to get 3 feet in eastern France, where you're completely drought-stricken. So this is going to be some historic flooding in France and in the Alps And, well, just buckle your seatbelts for that September 15th reveal, as it is getting very deep in Europe after it hasn't rained for a while. Now, a 4.0 in Hawaii. This is an earthquake. It's part of a seismic swarm that began back in 2019. Take a look at that. There was no tsunami threat after the 4.0 at 3:20 p.m. on Monday, September 5th. But the earthquake was located just 7 miles east-northeast of Pahala. And these Pahala quakes we've been reporting on for years, since the big eruption. And it's been ongoing. So does this mean there may be a flank eruption of Kilauea? It's anybody's guess. But scientists with the USGS Hawaiian Volcanic Observatory say the quake was part of a seismic swarm under Pahala, which has been going on since 2019. Earthquakes in this region have been observed at least as far back as the 1960s. So that's all that we're getting from that quake update. So nothing imminent, apparently. Seismic update, no quakes of note. Little rumbler there in the California-Nevada border at 2.5. The biggest quake I can see is a 5.2 in Nicaragua on the map. So all is quiet on the Western Front. Worldwide volcano news. All volcanoes are quiet except Merapi. Merapi volcano in Java, Indonesia. The summit ground deformation has been detected in a big way. The extrusive activity at the volcano continues, but the Pusat volcanological dame, whatever you call that, the PV, BMG, MBG, tiltimeter instruments monitored an inflation trend located around the summit of the volcano in early September. A September to remember, as we're going to get to just a moment here in the podcast. There are predictions coming that a Carrington event may hit September 23rd. So just a teaser. But gas and steam emissions continue to rise 50 to 100 meters from Merapi above the summit and dominate the eruptive activity at the volcano so far. The active growing lava dome continues to shed numerous growing avalanches from the dome down the southwest flank. And the public is being warned to stay away at least 3 kilometers because it may be boom time at Merapi. And that will be a big boom indeed. Now, solar activity is at an all-time high since the last solar max, almost a decade ago. Solar flares, coronal mass ejections observed last week were record-breaking for the cycle. An odd aurora like Steve phenomenon was captured by a Michigan-based photographer. Look at that picket fence with Steve right above it. Now, Steve may be just the strangest natural phenomenon you can see in the sky ever, or it may be a warning sign of the changing magnetosphere and the fact that the shit is about to hit the fan. Now, sunspots turning towards Earth are so big that it's changing how the sun is vibrating. And it's, well, making many people nervous. Now, this information I just gleaned after publishing my last report on magnetic reversal news, which predicts a Carrington-like event coming from this sunspot region in September 23rd. Yeah, I know. It's a hard pill to swallow, but this spot will be Earth-facing in just 10 days. And that will make it the 16th, which is a little early. So maybe there's another spot that will develop, but currently the disk is blank, although active. No coronal holes or coronal hole streams coming, but we can see those bright active regions here on the eastern limb coming to get us, potentially. And here we see the far side of the sun. Now here, take a look at this. This is the spot in question that is on the backside of the sun that is shooting halo coronal mass ejections towards Venus. Thankfully, not towards Earth. If this baby came towards Earth, we may not be talking today. So that's the news. Echoes from a far side sunspot. There is a sunspot on the far side of the sun so large, it's affecting the way the whole sun vibrates. Now take a look at the helioseismic map. And there is the blacked out region of that spot. It's probably AR 3088 due to all the telemetry and the satellite data, which means that it's 7, 8, 9, 10 days away from turning Earth facing. So we do have some time. It won't be till the 16th of September that this potentially empire-ending spot will turn around and face us. Is that good news? No, not for many. Because a major far-side CME and radiation storm just occurred. Something just exploded on the far side of the sun. And according to Stereo A, it was a big boom. And now we think it's probably AR 3088. Now, the good news is it's not going to be here for about 10 days. So if you have some extra money, go get those preps. Because there is a scientist that, well, months ago predicted that on the 23rd of September of this year, a solar storm is anticipated to strike the Earth. And this is based on science in the Quran. Now, the 6-minute video I put up on Magnetic Reversal News earlier today, many people were angry that I did not explain the science. Now, what I did do is explain in great detail how you can glean the science by clicking the link below. And all you have to do is read this paragraph here. So I don't need to reiterate it in that video. But if you are so lazy that you can't read a single paragraph, I guess I'll do it now. And according to this paper, a recurrence of the Carrington solar storm event would have a significant effect, not just on technological infrastructure. However, the complexity of the solar storm's repercussions on the food shortage crisis is critical, since the world is now confronting food scarcity. Now, this team's anticipation of solar storms is based on the crucial factors determining that extreme solar storm occurrence is rare, and that the IMF-BZ, with its southerly orientation and negative polarity, is one of the defining variables for the event of intense solar storms. Now, the most important part of the approach to interpreting the Quran is establishing a tie between pertinent literature and the Quran. Thus, this team follows Plato's instructions in the cave allegory. Now, if your mind was just blown that we went from science to the Quran to religion to philosophy, well, mine is blown as well. But the sun, according to the cave allegory, should enlighten us upon departing the cave. And in verse 18, section 17 of the cave chapter, the term tala'at that follows the word sun signifies the sun's position at the zenith. And this is according to Al-Rabadi 2022b paper, link below. And the second word, taze waru, designates the negative and southward direction of the IMF. Therefore, according to this team, they are anticipating that an intense coronal mass ejection would impact Earth at the sun at zenith on the 23rd September 2022 at about 5:07 UTC. You can't get more exact than that. And I have no idea how they got that information either, because I'm reading it just like you. In addition, hitting the Earth's upper atmosphere, there's likely by a solar flare that will coincide with the sunset from the word Tokradam, that signified that the sun emission of a Ka iron line within our approach. So, according to these teams, these scientists, it's likely a solar flare will coincide or precede a CME in striking the Earth's upper atmosphere on the 23rd of September 2022. So we're going to be here watching just like you, minute by minute, hour by hour. Stay tuned for the boom. Now, a new paper, a new discovery shows that a major flowering plant that we once thought was much younger, well, is actually much older and is 150 million years older than previously thought. That's insane. It's mind-boggling. Because this date pushes the plant just back to about 250 million years. When we once thought it was only 100 million years old, which is about the extinction of the dinosaur, this plant lived throughout the entire Triassic and before. That's how little we know about actual science. And again, the science of mammals has been pushed back once again. At the same time, a shrew-like creature that lived 225 million years ago is the oldest mammal ever identified. And it's identified at the same time as the oldest dinosaur. So dinosaurs and mammals evolved at the same time. And guess who won? Well, it's pretty obvious. Now, just a little tantalizing tidbit of some papers that we've woven together because of some of our subscribers giving us some really good tidbits. We're going to do an expose over at Magnetic Reversal News in a day or so about the Beaufort Gyre and the fact that it is about to release. So let's just break this down. Our magnetosphere is weakening. We've entered a grand solar minimum years ago, and we're diving deeper into it. We're also on the flexure point of the end of the Holocene warming. These warming periods end about 10,000 years after maximum glaciation, and we're going back into maximum glaciation at the same time. All the while, a magnetic excursion is occurring. What could go wrong? It's anybody's guess, but according to a new paper, spinning ice flows reveal intensification of mesoscale eddies in the western Arctic Ocean. And that means the Beaufort Gyre may be about to release after decades of building. That's a lot of fresh water because back in 2015, the Beaufort Gyre had accumulated 20,000 cubic kilometers of fresh water. How much is in there now? And how much is about to be unearthed into the North Pacific, potentially crippling the Gulf Stream and the AMOC. And that's a boom to knowledge. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Share this with like-minded people. More updates are coming. More information is flowing. No one's bumming. Subscribe if you haven't. Share this with like-minded people. Be a hero. Become a Patreon. Support the work we do. $1 a month, everything we publish, commercial free. And that's a boom to knowledge. Be safe. We love you.